Russian drones have killed 2 people and injured many more in an attack on the northern Ukraine city of Sumy. Russian drones have killed 2 people and injured many more in an attack on the northern Ukraine city of Sumy.
Palestinian families, fearing for their safety, stream out of the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. Israel on Monday launched its most intense military operation in the area in nearly 2 decades, carrying out a series of drone strikes and sending hundreds of troops on an open-ended mission. Security forces insist they are not targeting civilians, but many Palestinians say history tells a different story. An estimated 3,000 people have sought safety away from the camp. The crackdown is reminiscent of Israeli military tactics used during the second uprising in the early 2000s and comes at a time of growing domestic pressure for a tough response to recent attacks on Israeli settlers.
צה"ל יצא הלילה לפעולה נרחבת נגד מטרות טרור בג'נין. בחודשים האחרונים ג'נין הפכה לעיר מקלט הטרור. אנחנו שמים לזה סוף.
The Palestinian Foreign Ministry has called the escalation an open war against the people of Jenin. Sounds of gunfire and explosions were heard overnight and Tuesday morning. Supporters of the armed wing of Gaza's Islamist rulers Hamas have rallied in solidarity. Palestinian groups have called for a unified effort to counter the Israeli operation.
At least 2 people have been killed and 19 others wounded in a Russian drone attack on the northern Ukrainian city of Sumy. A 5-year-old boy was among the injured. An official building and 2 residential structures were damaged in the attack, reportedly carried out by 4 Russian drones. President Zelensky has called for an urgent air defense system upgrade in the wake of the strike. He says Ukraine does not have enough high-quality air defense systems to protect the entire country. Kyiv insists it is making slow territorial gains and has released footage of troops engaged in night training near Kramatorsk. The Swedes are serving as instructors. Former Ranger soldier Chris Steer is one of them.
Det här är en del av att vara en soldat. Jag kan sitta och prata med dig i en skyttegrav eller på en kafeteria. Så brukar man alltid säga, ja, hoppas vi ses imorgon. Därför att totalt sett, både ukrainer, svenskar, så är jag uppe i strax under 100 människor som jag har känt längre än en vecka som har stupat i det här kriget.
On the Russian side, the Ministry of Defense has released footage of what it says are cruise tanks causing effective fire damage at the enemy stronghold.
Ukrainian forces reportedly conducted counteroffensive operations in 6 sectors of the front on the 2nd of July and made gains in some of these areas. This is according to the latest assessment by the Institute for the Study of War. Now let's take a closer look at the map to see where exactly these happened. Now, the Russian Defense Ministry and other Russian sources claim that Ukrainian forces conducted offensive operations in western Zaporizhia region. It's this area, also on the administrative border between Zaporizhia and Donetsk region, in western Donetsk region along the Avdiivka-Donetsk city front in the direction of Liman, and in the Bakhmut area right here. Russian mid-bloggers claim that Ukrainian forces advanced specifically southwest of Klishivka. Now, Klishivka is about 7 kilometers south of Bakhmut here. The Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that Russian forces repelled Ukrainian attacks near Bakhmut and Berhiivka, which is 6 kilometers north of Bakhmut. Ukrainian Eastern Group of Forces spokesperson Colonel Serhiy Cherevati reported on the 2nd of July that Ukrainian forces are continuing to advance on the flanks of Bakhmut here in this area. Russian forces are likely responding to Ukrainian operations around Bakhmut by pulling some forces from elsewhere in Ukraine. Ukrainian Eastern Group of Forces spokesperson reported that Russian forces recently transferred an unspecified Russian Airborne Forces regiment from the Liman direction, the area west of Kremina, right here in the direction of Bakhmut. Sergei Chervaty stated that Bakhmut continues to offer Russian forces more propaganda value than military benefits, and suggested that Russian forces may be concentrating elite forces in the Bakhmut area to preserve the perceived informational victory received from the capture of Bakhmut on the 21st of May.
French politicians have been summoned to talks with the country's Prime Minister. It's part of an urgent search for answers after 6 nights of violence, triggered by the death of 17-year-old Nal, shot dead by a police officer just outside Paris. Protests once again shining a spotlight on police brutality and systemic racism in France.
De nombreux sujets qui ont pu être évoqués sur la politique de la ville, sur le rôle de l'école, sur l'autorité parentale, la responsabilité des parents. Je vous dis, ces sujets-là, il faut prendre le temps d'y réfléchir. C'est ce que le président de la République a eu l'occasion aussi d'exprimer. Aujourd'hui, le temps, c'est le retour de l'ordre.
Earlier, there had been a show of solidarity and support for a Paris mayor after attackers tried to set fire to his home and fired rockets at the official's fleeing wife and children. The incident caused widespread shock and is being treated as attempted murder.
En vérité, c'est la démocratie elle-même qui est attaquée. Chacun de ces symboles sont aujourd'hui visés. Nos mairies sont attaquées. Les élus, les professeurs sont agressés. Nos forces de l'ordre et de secours sont prises pour cible quotidiennement.
Thousands of police are still being deployed across France. There are hopes a corner has been turned after 2 nights of relative calm. President Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday is meeting the mayors of 220 towns and cities that have seen extensive damage in recent days.
Elke Schelling runs a helpline for the elderly. In the summer season, the hot topic is the heat.
And they fear about this day getting hotter and hotter and just not being able to get out because it's too hot. And they tell us they don't know how to get them some food because they can't go out to buy this.
More than an estimated 4,000 people died in Germany from heat last year. The country's health ministry has created a website to try to decrease those numbers. It details what local governments can do to try and help those most vulnerable, including children and elderly people. It is part of a national plan to improve the response to heat waves. The ministry says they are becoming more common with climate change. The government says it is following the example of France. It developed several measures for heat waves after one in 2003 led to about 15,000 people dying from climate change.
Scientists say that cities are especially impacted by heat waves. The dense infrastructure traps heat in, what can lower temperatures, parks and trees.
Climate scientist Diego Rybski says adding green space to cities is not expensive.
Currently the tendency goes into, it's called redensification, so building like more, filling the empty spaces in the city, and this is then contrary to what we actually need. So we need more of the green space between the buildings, but now the green spaces are more filled with additional buildings.
Germany's health ministry says more projects will start mid-summer. It's looking into sending warnings to people's phones. Units asked the health ministry when such a system would be implemented and why didn't one start before the summer. The ministry said it cannot give a time schedule. As for Elke, she says she feels lucky to be in good health to deal with rising temperatures, but she says she still struggles.
It's too hot, I'm getting weak and I'm getting angry, I'm helpless, and I don't like feeling helpless.
The last surviving member of an elite French unit that joined US and other Allied forces in the D-Day invasion has died. Léon Gauthier was 100 years old. The death was announced by the mayor of Ouistreham, where Gauthier lived out his last years. Gautier's Kiefer Commando unit was among the first waves of Allied troops to storm Normandy, beginning the liberation of Western Europe. Gautier was a nationally known figure and met with President Emmanuel Macron as part of commemorations for the 79th anniversary of D-Day last month.
Tourists and locals gather outside the Karlovy Vary International Film Festival, hoping to catch a glimpse of their favourite Hollywood stars. Scottish actor and producer Ewan McGregor received the festival's President Award on Saturday. Russell Crowe was also honoured for his outstanding contribution to the world of cinema on the opening night of the Czech Festival. McGregor presented his new film, a road movie titled You Sing Loud, I Sing Louder, in which he appears together with his daughter Clara.
I mean, I was peeing and...
We had an opportunity to spend that period of time really together, which is unusual, I think. And a lot of the storytelling happens without any lines at all, without any words, you know.
So yeah, I think that was something that I found like a deeper level of appreciation for sure.
It was a very special, it's difficult to express how amazing it was to work with Clara and on this special film, and I would give anything to do it again. I don't know what the film would be, it could be anything.
Yeah, I would love that too. I mean, yeah, no reason not to, I think. It was very fun.
Festival tu potrvá ještě do konce tohoto týdne. Potom mezinárodní porota rozhodne o tom, který z 11 soutěžních filmů obdrží křišťálový globus. Jiří Skáncel, Euronews, Karlovy Vary.